Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. We have a surprise third challenge to feature bows over at the Counterfeit Kit challenge, and here is a peek at my layout, so let's go ahead and dive into this process. I am going to be working on yet another Christmas layout without using Christmas supplies, and this is something I do commonly, so hopefully you enjoy this process. I have this die set from Doodlebug, which I got this as an exclusive product from an event, so I'm not sure if it's available, but if it is, I will link you up. I pulled out some pattern papers from my counterfeit kit, and I wanted to use a purple and that grid paper, specifically one because the main kid in this story likes purple, and two, the grid helps accomplish some other jobs on this layout. So I am going to create a shelf for my photos to sit on, and that will get placed towards the upper portion of this layout. And then the lower portion will contain my title and my journaling. But before we get to that, I want to create another layer to this shelf for those photos, and that is a row of bows. So I pull out the die from my die set, and of course you could use whatever die set you have. You could do stamping, you could draw on them with a marker. However you want to create some bows is just fine. I haven't played with this die in quite a while, and it took me a moment to remember how to put it together. I was like, oh yeah, fold those bits over into the fluffy part of the bow, and then you can glue everything together and have that decoration. So as I finish up this first bow, I will be making, 6 bows, I think, 5 or 6 bows to go on this layout, and they will space out across that shelf. With the main elements of this layout done, I'm going to go ahead and start adhering everything down. Now here's where that grid comes in handy. When I'm spacing out these bows, I am able to space them out every other major grid line, and that is very helpful when you're trying to line things up. Grid paper works excellently for that, as well as for lining up title letters. So I started getting my title on there, and I realized it's not going to quite fit how I thought it would, so I'm going to shift this title so that the root word of the title is to one side of that letter Y's descender, and then the suffix will be on the other side. So it will say gifting instead of gifting, if that makes any sense. My word nerds out there will get it. So that is how I spaced out my title to have it nestle together on this layout. Now I had this, what I thought was going to be a clever idea, to bring in the shape of those bows down to another kind of little shelf element below that title. I grab another sheet of paper, one of the papers that I used to make the bows, and I'm going to do a partial die cutting technique on this paper using that bow die. And here I am just trying to figure out the sizing for this. So I cut a strip of paper that I expect will just be wide enough to cut out the ribbon end of that die. And as I run it through my machine, it didn't work out great, but it's okay. I'm just going to put it on the layout and move on. I could have, done a fishtail banner cut, which I do all the time, or something along those lines, or just leave it straight, but it was okay. So I'm moving on. Now my photos are looking a little plain up there, so I'm going to use this Paige Evans swatch booklet, and I've been using these in my counterfeit kit all month so far, and I'm really liking them. I've had them for a long time and haven't figured out what to do with them, so I think this month it's finally clicking into place. So as I pull out several of these patterns, I am trimming them down into about thirds. The math doesn't work out great, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And I will tuck those little prints around my photos to kind of give it more of a patchwork look, and that just has a cozy feel to me. And I'm trying to pick some reds and greens and deeper blues to kind of lend into the Christmas feel without it being, Christmas in your face. So that is something I like to do with my layouts. I don't always do a huge amount of very specifically themed items. I do sometimes, but when I can make my supplies stretch to kind of any story, that is really what I prefer. So as I was chatting about that, I have pulled out a bit of embellishments. I have my buttons back. They've been featured all month long in my kit. and I've pulled out a few die cut elements that I think will work. And I'm going to put my journaling on that bottom right hand corner. And that little piece of paper from the swatch book, I am going to use as a way to highlight certain words in my journaling. I am going to cut this down so that it just fits the words that I need it to fit. And then I will glue those into place as I'm writing my journaling. And this is a bit of, a feel for doing this, because getting these little pieces of paper to kind of space out in a visually pleasing way while also highlighting important words and not just, dumb words like that takes a little bit of practice. So if this is a technique that you like, I'd say go ahead and practice this a little bit on some scratch paper and just imagine, extra pieces of cardstock to be your highlighter pieces, and just practice this technique. At this point, I've done it enough times that I can just kind of get a feel for it. And while I don't always get, super juicy keywords in there, I do try and, highlight the ones that matter to the story as much as possible. With that done, I am nestling a little bit of embellishment down at the bottom of my journaling to kind of I'm creating kind of a diagonal flow to this layout. So upper left-hand corner with some embellishments, all the way down to title journaling and bottom right-hand corner of embellishments. And I am playing with a few other bits and pieces, but I think for the most part, this is how this layout does end up. I did give a little bit of a folded corner to my photo shelf mat up there. And I am tucking one more embellishment around my title to kind of balance out that border that's underneath the title. And because this is a story about, my kids driving off in the car doing some Christmas shopping, that little car icon works. But the words all the way around the car aren't exactly perfect for the story. So I'm going to cover up the words that don't fit with some sequins. And so as I sprinkle my sequins on my page, I'm going to really purposefully use those sequins to hide some of that text on that embellishment piece. So that is another technique that I use on a regular basis. When things don't feel like they're working quite right, then I can kind of fuss with it a little bit and squeeze it into my story. All right, I won't make you watch me glue sequins down, so we will call that good at this point. And you can see there how I hid those words. And I did add just a little bit more journaling so that it would fit into that die cut element down there that has a phrase on it. So that journaling kind of runs into that phrase. And then, as is typical for me, I will finish off these simpler layouts with a doodled border. And that is it for this time around. So I hope you will go check out the Counterfeit Kit Challenge blog and see all the inspiration that we offer every month, from scrapbook kit builds to scrapbooking challenges. As we finish the peek at these close-ups, I will tell you my plans for next week is to be back with my Idea Stretcher video series, which I haven't done a video for in quite a while. And then December will be on the quieter side, and it's not completely planned yet, but I hope you will join me for what I anticipate to be a few layouts and some family holiday crafting. Until then, have an artful day.